Rubik's Cube Methods Episode 1, Shadow Sliced Snow Columns. Shadow Sliced Snow Columns, or SSC for short, has been described as an orient first method, an improved version of the human Fisselfway algorithm, an advanced belt method, and a columns first method. This method was proposed by Joseph Briggs and Julian Adam in 2015. SSC shows around 40 to 50 moves depending on the variant, as there are many ways to approach this method, especially in the last few steps. Because of this impressive move count, this method can be good for speed solving as well as FMC. Shadow Sliced Snow Columns is said to be one of the most move-efficient methods that has ever been developed. In this tutorial, there will be 3 things that you are required to know. The first is EO, and EO stands for edge orientation. The type of EO I'm talking about is the type you do in the ZZ method. The second is square 1, CO and CP, or corner orientation and corner permutation. This will sure make things more efficient and faster, but if you don't know these, then you can do CO intuitively, and you can do PLL algorithms in the place of CP. The third thing you should know is root LSE, or root last 6 edges. Now let's get into the steps of this method. Step 1. Solve EO edge and place 1 additional E-slice edge. Step 2. Orient 3D layer corners and create a pseudo pair to insert the final E-slice edge. Step 3. Orient corners of the last layer, OCLL. Step 4. Separate the corners. Step 5. Solve the corners. Step 6. Last 8 edges, LEE. So the first step of this method is you want to solve the edge orientation. You should already know this if you are trying to solve with this method. And if you do not know edge orientation, then I would advise you to learn the ZZ method or the Petrus method, as they both have EO in it. So let's do edge orientation. So this edge is good, this edge is good, this edge is good, and this edge is bad. Okay, 1 bad on the top layer. This edge is good, this edge is bad. Looks like this edge is bad, and it looks like we have this edge is bad. So we only have 4 bad edges, which is pretty good, and it's like my favorite case. So I'm going to bring them all into the front, and then I'm going to orient them like this. And now all the edges on the cube are oriented. So step 1, EO edge. So we've already done EO, now we need to do the edge. Think of your EO line in ZZ, and now rotate that line 90 degrees. So the EO line is like this, and 90 degrees is like this. So now just insert those pieces. So F2 to put that one in. So now I see the other one in the back, and I'm just going to take that into the top layer and insert it. So here we have it. Now you want to solve another E layer edge, so the full belt is solved except for 1 slot. So we need to solve 1 other edge, and you want that edge to be in the back right, so you won't have to cube rotate later. So I found the edge that goes in the back right slot, so I'm just going to insert that. Now that is step 1 done. Now for step 2, if you look at the cube from the bottom, any corner that shows either white or yellow is a corner that is oriented correctly. So this corner right here is oriented correctly, but this one shows red, and that is not oriented correctly. So what you can do to orient the corners on the bottom layer is either select a corner from the top layer and insert it like that. Make sure when you insert the corner, it actually replaces a misoriented corner and not an oriented one, because that would be useless. Or what you can do as an alternative is take a misoriented corner from the bottom and do a set of RU, R prime, U prime moves until you get that corner oriented. So RU, R prime, U prime, RU, R prime, U prime, RU, R prime, U prime, RU, R prime, U prime. So now as you can see, we've got 3 corners oriented. So now what we need to do is we need to solve this edge that will make a full belt around the middle. And how we're going to do this is we're going to also put a pseudo pair, and we will orient that corner, so then we'll have 4 corners oriented and a full belt made. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find my edge, and it seems that it's in the bottom layer right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do an M2 to bring the edge from the bottom layer into the top layer, do a U move to put it out of the M slice, and do an M2 move to restore the belt and to restore the cube. So now we need to do a pseudo pair. So first of all, we need to get the slot ready and basically take any corner that you can use that you will not need any F or F prime moves to solve. So for example, this corner will work because we're not doing F moves to solve it, and when we insert it, it will be oriented correctly. So now at the end of step 2, you will have a full belt made around the middle, and you will have all of your corners oriented on the bottom layer. For step 3, we need to orient the corners of the last layer, so the top layer. And the thing about this is that we want to use algorithms that do not mess up the edge orientation. CMLLs or CLLs, I think, will mess up the orientation of the edges, so you just want to be careful of that because it will just ruin the work we did in the beginning. For example, this shows up as an anti-zoom, and as you notice, all of the edges are still oriented. Now for this case, on 2x2, you might be inclined to do something like this to orient all of the corners, but as you can see, these two edges have become misoriented, so you just want to be aware of algorithms that do that type of thing. So the type of algorithms you want to use are the ones in CFOP, and they are called OCLLs, so something like this. And as you can see, that has not affected the edges by misorienting them. So step 4, we need to separate the corners to their individual sides. So we have to look at the centers here. So this is the yellow center, so we want all the corners on the side to be yellow, and only 2 of them are actually like that. The other 2 are white. And on the white side, we want all the corners here to be showing white color and not yellow. So kind of think of it like 4x4 centers. So you line up 2 and 2, then you insert the one from the bottom, do a U2, and bring it back down like that. Now you have something like this where it shows up as an L, and only one corner needs to be inserted. You just have to make a bar like this, and then bring it down. And you want to use R2 moves so that you will preserve the belt. So step 5, we need to solve all the corners on the cube. And for this, I'm going to be using square 1 CP, or square 1 corner permutation. For 3x3, square 1 slash moves turn into R2 moves. Free moves on square 1 are just full turns on 3x3. So for this case, you would do this algorithm: R2 U prime, R2 U D, R2 D prime, R2. And as you can see, all of the corners are now permuted. Now for this case, where you don't have any headlights on any of the sides, you do this alg: R2 U D prime, R2 U prime D, R2. That solves all the corners. For this case, when you have headlights on the bottom and no headlights on the top, you would do this: R2 U, R2 U prime, R2 U, R2 U prime, R2. So for this case, when you have the headlights on the top layer and no headlights on the bottom layer, you would do this: and now what you have is a bar flip. So what you would do is do this. Now as you can see, everything is solved. So when you have this case where the bottom layer is solved and you have headlights, you'll put them in the back and you will do this. And now you have a bar flip, so what you have to do is this. So when you have the top layer solved and when you have headlights on the bottom, you want to put them in the back, and then you want to do this. So when you have the bottom layer solved and you have something that looks like no headlights on the top, you would do this. So when you have the top layer solved and you have no headlights on the bottom, what you would do is this alg. That is all the cases. Step 6, my favorite step because it's just real. First, solve your DL and DR edges. So this one would be DL right there, but then we do not have DR. So I'm just going to line it up and then solve. And there we go. So now we have skipped edge orientation because of what we did in the first step. So now solve your UL, UR edges. So UL, UR would be yellow, red, yellow, orange. So, and then put them on the left and right sides. And then do L4E or L3E depending on the case. And it looks like we have L3E, so with a U2 AUF. And there you go. That is the shadow slice no columns method. Some pros of this method: low move count, ergonomic, mostly entirely RU, D and M moves. Low L count, that's always a relief. Some cons of this method: can be difficult method to transition to after using other popular methods, as it doesn't directly solve many pieces until the final few steps. Pseudopairs can be difficult to get used to. Look ahead can be difficult with a lack of direct solving. Variants for the last step are not the best, and there is constant development in that area, so any variant learned may be out of date or superseded by a better variant very quickly, which is sad if you learned a lot of algs. So that is the shadow slice no columns method. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and comment down below any method you'd like to see next. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.